Today, we're talking about perimenopause. Now, I know it's a topic that we need to talk about because when women hit a certain age, weird stuff starts happening in our bodies that affects our day-to-day life. And it can sometimes be really scary. And a lot of times we don't get the answers that we're hoping for, seeking and hoping for from our doctors. So, what are we going to do in that situation? Well, my guest today is Dyna Vink. She is a certified integrative health practitioner and founder of the Holistic Nutrition Lifestyle. She helps women navigate the often misunderstood transition of perimenopause by identifying the root causes behind the symptoms that are too often dismissed as just aging. After experiencing fragmented care and unhelpful lab results herself, Dina turned to functional medicine testing to uncover imbalances that traditional approaches tend to overlook. Through targeted nutrition, movement, mind style, and lifestyle changes, she restored her energy and professional confidence. Now she empowers other women to do the same by offering clear, science backed guidance to help them control their health, cut through the confusion, and thrive in midlife and beyond. You're listening to Midlife Strategies for Badass Women, the no BS podcast for women over 40 who are sick of playing by someone else's rules. I'm your host, Sue Willoughby, badass midlife strategist, truth teller, and professional fire starter for midlife reinvention. Around here, we don't do fluff. We do real talk, bold strategies, and badass breakthroughs. Because midlife isn't a crisis, it's your damn power move. If you're all in, unapologetic, and ready to reinvent, let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to Midlife Strategies for Badass Women. Well, I know that there's a lot of badass women out there that are suffering from perimenopause and all kinds of stuff that have to do with our crazy raging hormones. And a lot of times we don't even know what's going on. And then when you go to the doctor's like, oh, you're fine. It's just a thing that you're going through. You'll get over it. Right. And meanwhile, we may or may not get over it. And in the meantime, we're losing our minds sometimes. I've got some friends that are just like, oh my God, I feel like a crazy person. So having said all of that, today's guest is an integrative health specialist who deals with perimenopause and is here to answer a lot of our questions and give you some straight talk about that. Please welcome my guest. Hi, Dina. How you doing today?
Hey, Sue. I'm great. I'm so excited to be here.
And just, I want to make sure that people know that women know that they're not losing their minds. It's menopause, and we have to go through that stuff. I went through it a long time ago. I didn't lose my mind, not that I'm aware of anyway. So, but I do know, that a lot of women, it's all there's a spectrum, right? So, how did you get into this work?
Yeah, that wasn't
What's your
a direct.
story?
Yeah, it's not a direct line. It's as you might imagine, this is kind of a calling, I guess. But
Mm,
I was working in corporate. I was a director of marketing in a high tech firm, and I had teams all over the world, and quite a demanding job. And I suddenly realized that I was kind of losing the plot. Things were escaping me. I wasn't,
uh-huh.
able to spin all the plates all the time, keep them all going. And I thought that I was, that my health was deteriorating. And I went to the doctor to ask about it. And she didn't have any suggestions. So my initial problems were brain fog, and I had digestive issues, and I was starting to gain weight. So what she did is she body shamed me.
Oh,
And
helpful.
yeah, I was not at all impressed, but I did not accept her criticism. And then I thought, okay, I'll keep, pursuing this some kind of remedy here. And so I went to my fitness guru, and he put me on this boot camp thing because all he saw was the
Mm.
weight. And I was, I don't know, something like 10 pounds or something overweight. It wasn't, a huge issue. And that was terrible. That just about killed me. That was just way too much energy. And of course, what I know now is that was just producing a lot of cortisol, which was, driving me into the ground.
Mm.
And so then when that wasn't working, I went to my nutritionist, and she gave me the same terrible diet, which was a low fat, high carbohydrate processed food type of a diet that the doctor had given me. And that, of course, was not doing me any favors as well. So I thought, okay, I can't be the only one who's dealing with this, because at that point, the penny dropped with the hot flashes that had started to come in. And it went, I think this might be perimenopause. And
Ah.
so then I started to figure, okay, these are different symptoms, but it's all part of the same issue. And of
Mhm.
course, when I started on this journey, I thought it was just hot flashes and period changes, and that was all that, that one would notice. No idea that there were 30 or 40 different symptoms that you could have. And so I started diving into the research, and I came up with a number of lifestyle approaches that made some, quite a sizable difference. And I was able to continue in my job, and to, sort of reclaim my leadership and my authority and whatnot, because things had really been unraveling. So, then in my 50s, I was exited from corporate. We don't want you here anymore. And then I thought, okay, I'll just continue with the sort of marketing communication stuff on my own. And that wasn't really a lot of fun. It wasn't a challenging story at all. And I thought, okay, this is just going through the motions. I want to start giving back. This is the time of my life where I have expertise that I've gathered, and I would love to be able to share it with others. So I thought, well, what do I have where my age is not a problem, where it's actually an asset, right? It works in my favor. And I thought, well, this whole perimenopause thing was kind of a challenge. It was a 13-year period for me, which was, that's like, it's not like go home in 2 months, it's over, right? This is quite a chunk of life.
Yeah.
And so I thought, what if I package this up in a way that can be, well absorbed, that other women can learn from this, and can take on some of these practices and make some of the choices that I laid out. And while I was, moving along with that, I bumped into functional medicine testing. And that was the bomb. I mean, oh my goodness. Now you could suddenly figure out all the different things that are going on in perimenopause, where all the different imbalances are. And it might not all be hormonal. There might be other things going on there too. So how do you figure all that out? Well, you can with functional medicine testing, which is quite different than the regular blood draws that are done from a doctor.
Mhm.
So that's how I came to where I am now. Now I can offer a much more complete service that helps women, and it's much more gratifying to be able to use that science-based approach.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you finally were able to get some help and understanding and relief. So I have a couple of questions, as always, uh, and I want to go back to the functional medicine testing as well. But just out of curiosity, I mean, your physician that you initially went to was female.
Yeah.
Your nutritionist was female. The guy at the gym was a bro. Hey, bro, yeah, just keep pumping it, you'll be fine. But so that I understand. Um, why do you think that, you went to 2 female specialists, the light bulb didn't go on with them? I mean, why do you think that they kinda blew you off or put you in just a, you know, A, body shaming, not a great thing at all, but, I mean, why do you think that happened to you? I mean, not just to you, to anyone. Why I mean, you would think as women that they would have a little bit more understanding.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's what that's why I went to her, selected specifically a
Yeah.
female doctor. Well, it turns out that med school is not really gender based, and The top
Really?
well, they all have the same curriculum pretty much, right? And so, yeah, so the sad fact is that hormonal changes, perimenopause, menopause is not on the medical agenda. So
Hmm.
it's not part of that curriculum at all. And so, as a result, 80% of doctors are really poorly equipped to
Hmm.
support women. So the fact that this happens to every woman, or 50% of the population, is of course a different question. But this kind of explains why they don't know anything. And another thing that's not on the agenda is nutrition.
Hmm.
So nutrition is pretty much bound up with the lobby, the food lobby. And of course, medicine is overtaken by the pharmaceutical industry. So you've got, the pharmaceutical industry kind of overtaking what we might think about as nutrition or about preventative care. And that's just kind of the how the medical school agenda is built.
Yeah. And I think, not all docs are, that, but I do think there are a certain, number of physicians that are just kind of like, oh, symptom, 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 whatever, not looking beyond that. And, I am fortunate enough to have a doc that, I feel like they look at the whole picture, right? They look at the whole person. And a lot of docs don't. And you're right. And we're not, pooping the whole medical the whole medical system, but there are definitely some flaws, and I do feel like women a lot of times get sort of the short end of the stick, to be kind of blunt about it. But I'm really curious about the functional medical, or is it functional medical testing?
Mhm.
Tell me more about that. What is that? So let me just, I went to, at one point I was having really bad like psoriasis and stuff, and I went to an acupuncturist, because I love alternative, medicines. And she would do sort of like muscle testing. So she would give me an element or a something, and I would hold it in my hand, whatever it was, that she thought I might be allergic to or something. And then she would do uh, like muscle testing, right? Like the kind of thing. And then she would treat me for that. I'll tell you, it worked. The whole thing worked. So I don't know if that's similar or whatever. But tell me a little bit more about the functional testing.
Yeah, well, with the functional testing, what they're looking at is how the whole body interacts, right? Functional
Mhm.
medicine is very holistic in that sense. And so they are looking at a much different set of factors than traditional medicine is. So, as an example, thyroid testing in traditional terms usually just looks at your TSH factor. Whereas with functional medicine testing, they're looking at TSH, but they're looking at T3, T4, free T3, and the antibodies that go with it.
Hmm.
So it's a much more complete picture of what's going on. And so based on the results of these different tests that are available, we can identify where there are subtle imbalances and where your cortisol is high, where your blood sugar is high. We look at the A1C. We look for things like parasites. We look for imbalances in 73 different hormones. So there are a lot of things that we can see that the traditional tests don't even look at. We do hair samples for heavy metals. So it's quite a different approach, and it makes sense because not everything is caught in the blood, right? Some things you're looking at
Yeah.
as metabolites. So call it the waste of whatever used to be there.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting. Tell me
yeah.
more about that.
Well, for parasites, this is a critical thing to be able to determine what bacteria, what yeast, or what parasite is in the body by looking at its waste. And so
Ooh.
yeah, and
Ew. So first of all, I'm a little hung up on the whole parasite thing here. So tell like what kind of parasites would be like go undetected in the body, and then they leave waste as well. So that's kind of disgusting a little bit.
Yeah, and that waste is toxic to us. So
Yeah, sounds
you know,
like it.
we can have all kinds of symptoms, some of which mimic other things as well, right? And
Mm,
traditional medicine doesn't look for parasites unless you've been to a foreign country.
uh,
But I'm here to say that there are plenty of parasites at home,
eh,
and and it's quite easy to contract them.
huh.
And in fact, 20 to 30% of Americans have them, and they may not even know. So it could just be contributing to an overall fatigue. It could be contributing to, acne. It could be digestive issues. It could be sore joints. It could even be grinding of teeth at night. So,
Parasites would cause you to grind your teeth?
yeah,
What kind of I'm still hung up on the parasites. Sorry, I'm just like, because I think of parasite, I think of like worms and stuff like
yep,
that, and
that's
ew,
right. That's right.
ew. So, is that what we're talking about?
It is.
Ew, okay. All right, wow. We went down the parasite hole just then. So how and like you said, but people don't may not even know. They might go undetected for long periods of time. And but they'll present as other things. So if you go to traditional medicine, they may be saying, "Oh, well, you're presenting with such and such a thing. We're going to treat that thing," when that's not the case at all. Is that what I'm
That's
understanding?
That's right. That can happen. And
Ah,
so particular, like, let's go down that parasite angle because it's got your interest.
yes, let's.
Um, so with traditional medicine, what they typically do is they give you medication for, say, antibiotics for, say, 4 days,
Uh-huh,
and then you're basically done. And so what that does is it would clear out some of the adult parasites out of your system, which is fine, but it does
mhm.
nothing to address the larvae and the eggs. Okay.
Awesome.
And
Yeah,
then,
great.
as if that wasn't enough, we also form these biofilms to sort of protect the body. And what happens is that you get stuff underneath those biofilms
Oh,
that
great.
that we don't want, right? And so this
Huh.
antibiotic does nothing to clear that away. So what we
Oh my
use
god.
is something to dissolve that biofilm so that we can get underneath it and clear out the eggs and the larva and whatever else is
Mm,
there. So yeah,
nice.
it's and of course antibiotics also clear out the good bacteria, right?
Right,
So
yeah.
then you're subject to yeast infections, to UTIs, and all that other unpleasant stuff. So it's not really a complete solution. It sort of deals with the main issue of adult parasites, but there's a whole lot of mess that's kind of left over. Yeah.
Okay, now I'm just paranoid that I'm, like, riddled with parasites, and
Okay.
that's
I can help
okay.
you with that.
Great. Great, thanks. Okay, so parasites are one thing. What are some other things? So when we talk about perimenopause, there are, like you said, the symptoms that when you started to have hot flashes and night sweats or whatever, you're like, oh, maybe that's what's really going on. So those are the typical symptoms that women encounter, right? Changes in your period, all of that kind of stuff. What are like some of the other things, like you said, like the brain fog and just like what were some of the other symptoms that you were also experiencing?
Yeah, well, anxiety is another one,
Mm, okay.
where for, things that you used to do normally, suddenly there's a lot of anxiety. There's
Mm,
poor decision making. So you're anxious about your decision making. You used to be able to make these decisions, and now you can't. And then you're worrying about things that maybe you don't need to worry about. It's sort of a low level issue to worry about. Things like well, the brain fog. There's the whole digestive upset. So
yeah.
the gut can once you have a shift in hormones, you can have a cascade of other issues that happen, and they may
Uh-huh.
not all be hormone related. They may happen in the vacuum, But the whole gut dysbiosis challenge is very, very common. I'd say, most women get that. When they notice, oh, my digestion is changing now and I can't eat what I used to eat without distress. And so that's a big one. There's joint pain and
Mhm.
muscle pain. That's a big issue. Of course, sleep becomes a real big issue. And of course,
Yeah.
sleep is so foundational that if that
Mhm.
gets rocked, then then everything
And
else.
that makes all those other things worse. I mean,
That's
your
right.
brain fog is worse, your anxiety is worse, your all of
Yeah,
those things, your stomach is more upset and all of that. Yeah. Oh my god, it's complicated.
it is
It's
complicated.
we
Yes,
are complicated.
we
Now,
are.
this before we got on here, I was like, "You know what? If men had to go through this, you know darn well that there would be some sort of something that came out that would take care of all this stuff and make it more regulated like that." That's not the case. So, unfortunately, we are left to our own devices, and, through your tell me about your certification that you got as a result of all of these things.
Yeah. Well, when I ran into the functional medicine testing, I thought,
Mhm.
boy, I want to do that. I want to be able to do that. And the way to do that was to become an integrative health practitioner.
Hmm.
And this is an interesting certification that's offered through the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute, and which is overseen by Stephen Cabral, who's quite a public figure. And what he does is he draws from different practices. So there's functional medicine because the testing is so rich and so science based and developed.
Mhm.
There's holistic medicine. There's Ayurvedic medicine. There's naturopathic medicine. So there are a number of different approaches that are all combined. He sort of takes the best or the strongest component of these different areas of practice and combines them together into one certification. So some of the ways that we treat that we help rebalance once we notice on a test that something is out would be Ayurvedic herbs and supplements, right? And some of these have been in use for thousands of years. This is not news. It's just that we haven't heard about it before. So it's a way of tapping into some existing practices that have been around for some time, and harnessing it within a framework that has been tried and tested.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So, basically, I mean, with all of those things going on, you got the parasites, I keep going back to that, sorry. Yeah. You've got all these imbalances and everything, where I mean, because a lot of times I know that, you can't just throw everything at everything all at once. So is there some sort of a systematic approach to we start here and we get that settled, then we can address this, so is there some sort of thing and I'm sure it's different maybe for each person, but no. So tell me a little bit about if there is a systematic approach to
Yeah,
all of this craziness, what
yeah.
would that be? What does
Well,
that look like?
well, there is a common starting point, and that
Okay.
is a detox process. And
Okay.
a lot of detoxes that I had run into before, getting involved with this practice, was that they were like juice cleanses or something like that. And
Mhm.
and that's nice. It sort of takes care of the intestinal tract. But where the detoxing is the most important is to detox the liver pathways, right?
Hmm.
So that the liver, of course, processes everything and
Yeah.
gets it ready for release, for elimination. And if those pathways are clogged, which is very common by the time women reach their 40s and 50s, from antibiotics, from birth control pills, from processed food, from alcohol, from any number of things, then anything that you do later will not have the desired effect.
Hmm.
So
Because the liver's like a big filter, right? And
exactly.
it filters everything out. So,
Yeah,
just like anything, like on your furnace, if you
yeah,
leave those filters in there, they get all full of dust and everything like that,
yeah,
it's not gonna help things. So
and-
so
yeah,
starting with the liver, that's kind of the first first stop on the road to detoxing the liver, and how do you go about that?
Well, we have a detox protocol, which involves some Ayurvedic herbs, and it involves.
What are Ayurvedic I can't even say it. What are Ayurvedic herbs? Jeez.
Well, there are a
What
lot. You've heard of
specifically?
turmeric and
Yeah.
curcumin and
Okay.
rosemary and
Oh,
oregano.
okay.
So
Okay.
these are not, totally dicey. There are a few really exotic ones, but for the most part, a lot of these herbs have got medicinal effects to them, and
Okay.
so they get mixed and packaged together, and they can help to clear these pathways.
Nice.
Um,
Okay.
so there's a general eating program that goes with it where you would eat a lot of whole foods, and you would also eat some plant-based protein. So there's sort of less animal-based protein during this period
Mhm.
and more plant-based protein. And so using those herbs and this eating plan, we recommend either 1, 2, or 3 weeks for this, and that makes a world of difference. People can
Mm.
already start to feel, wow, they feel lighter, they feel sharper, and it really makes quite a difference for an early win in the process, right? You can notice that things are shifting and it feels a lot better quite early
Yeah,
in the
that's
process.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then once you get the liver sort of cleared out and things can start to flow a little bit better, then what?
Well, then we look at the tests.
Oh, okay. That's when
And
you do the functional testing
Well, we do the
or
functional
the
testing right away, and then it gets
okay.
sent off to the lab, and then by the time we've done the detox, then we've got the results of the lab.
Gotcha,
So
okay.
that works beautifully, and so then we can determine what kind of protocols are necessary. Quite often, there's a gut health protocol that needs to be done, and so that would usually be the starting point. There could be other other protocols. It could be a heavy metal issue that you're dealing. Could be parasites. It could be blood sugar issues. It could be cortisol issues. Right. So there are a number of different areas that we could then pinpoint on depending on what comes back on the test.
Hmm, okay. So, yeah, so basically you get the liver all cleared out, and then then that takes that out of the equation, or it at least allows things to flow better,
Yeah.
and then that gives you a little bit more clarity, like clearing the lens so that you can then see what's going on in addition to that, and I think it sounds like that's where things start to branch off for different people. Like somebody may have one thing more than someone else might have another thing. And yes, right. Yeah. Interesting. Wow. That's fascinating. I had no idea all that's, but it makes total sense to have a much more holistic approach. You're erasing the whiteboard, right? And then you can start with fresh messages to the body to then reset everything, it sounds
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it can make it's I think it's a handy way to look at it. It's a way to identify what some of the mystery ailments are, you know.
Mm. Mhm.
So often doctors leave you without a real solution to some of these mystery ailments, and like you said, they're quick to provide solutions. Well, call them solutions to symptoms as opposed to
Right.
looking at the root cause. And and
Yeah.
and I think that's one of the big differences is, if we're to look at why you feel so sluggish in the morning, then the first thing I want to know is how are you sleeping and what's your cortisol level? And
Mm.
then,
Mhm.
so no doctor ever asked me about my cortisol level. They ask me how I sleep, and if it's not good, then they'll give me a sleeping medication.
Right.
But the
Right.
problem with that is that 80% of people who take it have got side effects from that. Now, so
Mm.
it's it's sort of a double-edged sword, that one.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow. Hey, badass listener. Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? Yeah, it's not that difficult. Seriously. I've created a limited series mini podcast, which is only 21 episodes. It's entitled Podcasting for Real Estate Pros. Now, If you're not a real estate pro, that's okay. You can still listen because it goes through all of the steps from creating a concept to building content pillars to recording to actually launching your own real podcast. Now, this can be a marketing tool if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a real estate professional, whether you're an agent, whether you're a inspector, whatever industry you're in, this can be useful. It also has a free downloadable workbook. So wherever you listen to your podcasts, like Midlife Strategies for Badass Women, whether on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are, check it out. It's called Podcasting for Real Estate Pros. Listen to a few episodes. They're super short. They're like anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes long. Tons of information, actionable steps. Hey, you never know. You could be the next Josephine Rogan. All right, get out there, listen to that podcast, get your workbook, and I'll see you behind the mic. How do people find out more about the work that you do and, start to question their physicians? Or, how do people come to you to find out more about this kind of stuff? Because, we tend to try and trust our doctors and we think that they know what they're talking about. And we're kind of like, okay, I feel a little bit better, but like you said, you were like, I don't feel great. I still don't feel great. What's really going on? So you took the initiative to do your own research. And I think a lot of people don't always do that because they don't like to question the medical authorities.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Am I off base with that? Where
Well, even women who do question medical authority often just get gaslit, right? And that's a very sad situation because it sort of undermines how they feel, right? And if they're feeling that they can't really cope the way they used to, and that they're dropping things, they're not performing at work, which can have big ramification. Their relationships with their teams and their families and their friends is becoming frayed, and that's not trivial stuff.
right.
And it's often written off because there isn't a prescription for that. And partly it's because doctors don't have much time with you. I don't know, it's 8 minutes, 12 minutes.
Yeah. It's less and less.
Yeah. So, I don't want to, I don't want to knock the traditional medical practice. It certainly serves its function, but it does have gaps in it. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm working to fill a particular one, which I experienced, and many women experience it as well.
Yeah. So how do people find out about you and the work that you do and or other, other ways to find this kind of these kinds of services that they may not even realize are available?
Hmm. Well, I have a number of ways. I have a YouTube channel, which
Mhm.
is at Perimenopause Relief, where there's lots of information there. There's my website with lots of blogs and other information there, and that's holisticnutritionlifestyle.com. And I offer a free, what I call discovery call, so that women can call me. We can talk about their symptoms, and then we can determine whether they're a good candidate for functional medicine testing. So, that's a way to find out whether there's something that functional medicine testing can do, or whether I can do to help.
So do you actually yourself do the functional testing or do you refer people to like clinics or whatever?
Well, that's a great question. These functional tests are sent to their home, and
Oh, cool.
they do
Okay.
them very conveniently in the home. And there are lots of instructions about how to do it, like the cortisol. They have 4 saliva draws throughout the day at
Okay.
specific times, and there are some blood panels that are drawn, sort of 20 minutes after you wake up in the morning. And so, there are instructions about how to collect the
Oh,
samples.
okay. Okay,
And
so you collect them yourself. That's pretty cool.
yeah,
Yeah, and then you send everything in?
to the lab. That's right.
Is there, like, a fecal sample too?
Yes, there's a
Oh,
stool
of course
sample.
there is, because you
Yes.
gotta find those parasites. I'm back to the parasite.
It's the best one for the parasites for sure.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah, that's
yep,
interesting. Okay. So, yeah, I was just curious. I didn't know if they were, if they actually would come to see you or, if it was a remote thing. So that's pretty cool. So they can order these test kits
that's right. Yeah.
and then go through all the testing and then what? And then what happens? So they get the kit, they do the testing, they send it off, and then when you were talking about the sort of the liver detox,
Yeah.
is that part of the thing that they get with the initial testing, or how does that work?
Well, that would come first right away.
Okay.
Call it at the same time as the tests, but then you can start on the detox right away. And then you do the tests over the next few days or so, and then, send those in. Um, but my practice is run almost entirely online.
Hmm,
So I get the results of those tests, and then I can interpret what they mean and what the protocol would be. So I make a personalized protocol based on the biochemical feedback that we get for
hmm,
each person. Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Okay, that's cool. And so is this specifically for perimenopause? What about, like, postmenopausal? I mean, are there still things that
Mhm.
if someone is feeling relatively healthy, right, can you still go through this testing and this process to sort of maybe do a cleanse and rebalance everything? Or is it
Yeah.
just specifically for perimenopausal?
That's a great question. And so a lot of women think that when they reach menopause, that all these symptoms will go away, that that's kind of the end game for this misery that they're going through. And sadly, that's not the case. There are certain things that will carry on right through past menopause. Sleep is the biggest complaint, and of course that affects so much, right?
Mhm.
And then we have the whole business of energy and the whole cardiac system. The whole cardio system is quite impacted by the decline in estrogen. So that
Hmm,
means that you don't have the same protections on your heart as you used to. And another big one is we brain fog, and where it can develop into dementia, which of course we don't want. So
right.
these are common thing. Osteoporosis, when you've got the deterioration of the bones, you don't feel that so much, but you certainly do have muscle pain and joint pain
Right, right.
leading up to that. So there can be any number, and some women carry over their symptoms right into menopause. So yes, I absolutely can work with women who are past menopause. If they've got some of these mystery ailments, then I can help them. And of course, other practitioners have other areas of speciality, right? I tend to focus on this area that I've experienced, that I'm sort of most familiar with, and where I see this gap. But there are all kinds of other areas that other practitioners would provide assistance with.
So you talked about, hormones, right, and a drop in estrogen and stuff. So, why what about hormone replacement therapy, and why does that not address some of these things or all of them or whatever? But, I
Hmm.
mean, clearly, there are a lot of other things that you've mentioned, but, I think one of the big things that they do go to is HRT or hormone replacement therapy. So,
Yeah.
can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, I'm certainly not against hormone replacement therapy, and there's been a lot of studies that show how significantly better women fare with things like osteoporosis, cardio issues, and dementia. Right, those are the three
Mm,
biggies where
okay.
HRT can help. But it may not help with all the symptoms. So it may help a bit, but there may still be a collection of symptoms that are left out. And this is because some of our issues are not strictly estrogen and progesterone related, right? There are other hormones that can go crazy, like your thyroid can suddenly
Mm,
become a problem, and that can affect your energy and, all kinds of things. So you can have this gut dysbiosis that would not be affected by this very much. And so that could be a problem. And you could have heavy metal issues, or parasites, right? So there are a number of things that you could have. The whole cortisol problem and being insulin resistant is not necessarily helped by HRT. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Makes
So
sense. Yeah.
HRT is fine, but in from what I see, it's not the whole solution.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think that, like you said, we're complicated, us women. We're very complicated on so many levels. Uh, well, I love that you have found this work and that, you know, you that women are finding you, that they're getting a better understanding of what's really going on with their bodies. Because I think it is kind of a mystery, and I think that, if women are not empowered to challenge what's going on with themselves and take control of that, then they just think, "Well, I guess I've just gotta put up with this. I've just gotta, this is what it's gonna be like now," or this is part of, as you said, this is part of aging, or this is part of whatever. But I love that you're saying, "No, challenge the system, challenge ask the questions, find alternatives because they're out there
Ye-
and they can help."
That's so true. Yeah.
Yeah. So as we're kind of wrapping things up here, what would be your biggest piece of advice to middle-aged women who are experiencing some of these symptoms?
I'd say sign up for the discovery call and
Mhm.
see how mysterious they are. See if we can unravel that mystery, because there are options, and alternative medicine has got some pretty nice ways of looking at this, so that this, call it the third chapter of life, is going to be a lot more rewarding, and that's part of what I talk about too, just as you said, it is to reclaim yourself, your potential, and to not just simply sit back and survive, but to actually thrive and to undertake some of these life projects that you're now ready to do. So it's a fabulous opportunity to be able to step into. But if your health is poor, then that's a really big limiting factor, and in many cases it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't, and I think that that is great advice, is that just saying, "It doesn't have to be that way." Start asking those questions, start seeking alternative viewpoints, get in contact with you, find out, get some answers, get some like, "Oh, okay, it's not me. I'm," like I was saying at the beginning of the podcast, "I'm not losing my mind. I'm just going through changes in my body, and my body is complicated, and let's figure out what's going on." So I love that. I think that is fabulous advice. What is your website? So that just and I'm gonna have all this information in the show notes as well, but what's the best way for people to you mentioned your YouTube channel, and, what was your website again?
The website is holisticnutritionlifestyle.com.
All right, perfect, perfect. And I'll have all your links in the show notes. And thank you so much for this. Sorry I kind of got off on the parasite thing, but I just kind of creeps me out because it's like, oh my God, there's things living in our bodies. And yeah, of course there is, and it's some good things, some not such good things. So I'm gonna go do a liver detox, I think. All right. Well, thank you so much, and I really appreciate you being on the show today, Dinah. And for those of you who this resonates with, and I'm sure that there's a lot of you out there, get in touch with Dinah. Find out what's going on so that you don't have to, just accept the status quo of your body. You can make changes. You can be healthy. You can get your energy back, and you can, whatever chapter you're on, it can be vibrant and powerful. So share this with a friend if it doesn't affect you. I'm sure that you know somebody that is affected by this. And, rate us, review, like the podcast, and like I said, share it with a friend, because I'm sure that there's people out there you can share this with. So thank you for joining me for another episode of Midlife Strategies for Badass Women. And I think that this is a really good strategy. So check in with Dinah, and I'll see you next week.